Any questions on kind of format? Okay.
Feel free to ask questions during the presentation.
Awesome. Thanks.
And Alex is still in there. I know he was trying to get out. No, you gotta use the video.
Let's see.
So Alex, how have you had fun on this project?
Yeah.
Enjoying what you're doing? Yeah, cool.
He's loving Flutter.
Yeah, you know what? I've been teaching Flutter for the last month or so in my Android class. I think I'm going to change that class to teach Flutter instead of native Android development because you get the 2-for-1 sort of. And
are you going to get rid of iOS then?
No. You got to still teach native iOS because if you want to have a beautiful app, you got to do native iOS. Flutter is on the way, but they're not quite there yet. But anyway, the programming model for Flutter is so much cleaner than the Android programming model. Android is so convoluted at this point because of all the iterations they've gone through and fragmentation. And anyway, that's what I'm thinking of doing is changing that to Flutter.
Interesting.
Because we were able to do an app that I'm going to ship to our donors in just a few weeks' time.
That's awesome.
A directory app.
Yeah, cool.
So.
Nice.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Alright. Sometimes if there's nothing on the screen, this thing
Should we close the door?
kind of blurs. Yeah, that'd be
Are
great.
there more
Thanks.
people coming in?
Maybe, but they can come.
It's just noisy out there.
It sure is. All right, gentlemen, floor's yours.
Okay, way to go.
I took my
Well, my name's Thomas, this is Alex, and we, for the past semester, have been working on the campus market. So before we dive into what that entailed, I'll just give you a quick overview of what we're going to talk about. So first, the problem that I encountered, then we'll talk about the business I created to try and solve that problem. Then we'll go over what the capstone actually was and how that fit in with the business that's already going. And then Alex will give us a demonstration of the apps that we built. And then I'll go over lessons learned and potential next steps.
That's right.
So the problem. So about a year and a half ago, I was living in California, and I needed to find a place in Provo for when I moved back in the end of December. It was tough because I was moving back in the middle of the academic school year, so there just wasn't a lot of availability. So I did what pretty much every BYU student does when they're looking for housing, and I went to I went to Facebook and I found a couple of BYU housing groups, and I started scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and much like this GIF, it just never ended. With Facebook, you can't search, you can't filter, so you just gotta scroll and try and find something you like. And it was a painful experience, and so I thought there's gotta be a better way. And so I looked, and I thought I was missing something. I thought I was missing a better alternative, but there really wasn't any better alternative. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna build my own. And so that's how the campus market was born. So currently the campus market is live. You can go to it right now, it's thecampus.market. And we've got 125 active users, 135 listings, and we're growing every day. We get maybe 4 or 5 users and new listings every day. And so, as you can see from this GIF, this is just the home page. Just wanted to highlight a couple of things we've done to really tailor it to BYU students. So instead of scrolling through everything looking for housing I can live in, you can easily filter by men's approved housing, women's approved housing. Or we've got that map right there, so if there's a ward you really want to live in, you can look up those ward boundaries and then take a look on the map and see if there are any listings in those boundaries. And those are just a couple of instances of the things we've done to really tailor this to students. We've done a lot of other things, but we've tried to make it a better alternative than KSL or Facebook groups. But that's not what our capstone was about. I started working on this about a year ago, and we went live beginning of January, so it's been going for a while. So we couldn't use this as our capstone. So Alex and I decided to build a mobile app. And this is where we started. We started with some very low quality paper prototypes. And we went and we took them to random students around BYU, and we'd say, what do you think about this? Is this something you would use? And we'd sit down with them, and we'd have the papers in front of them, and we'd say, okay, pretend like you're trying to create a listing. They'd tap on the piece of paper, and then we'd shuffle the papers out, and we did that to get an idea of would people use it, was our design good, that kind of thing. We learned a lot from that. One was our design wasn't that great. And so our capstone for the past semester has been turning this initial prototype into working prototypes. And so you can see here we've got iOS and Android. There's been some capstones we've seen that only did iOS. You know, as an Android user, I'm personally offended by that. And so we wanted to make sure to do both platforms. And we did that using Google's new framework called Flutter. Flutter is a brand new framework from Google that allows you to build iOS and Android applications using a single code base. And when I say brand new, I mean they came out of beta, I think, 2 or 3 weeks before we started this project. So Flutter is brand new. And it's been a lot of fun, but there have been some challenges, and we'll talk about that later in the presentation. So the mobile apps we're building, they're companion apps to the website, which has allowed us to use a lot of the existing code base that's running the current website right now. So the website's running on a Node.js backend, so it's all API based. So we were pretty easily able to just connect our Flutter application to call those same API endpoints that the website's calling. And granted, we had to change and tweak some endpoints, but for the most part, we've been able to use what's already up there. I'll talk about this in more detail later as well, but we're also using a WebSocket. For reasons I'll get into later, we wanted to build our own custom chat application or chat functionality in the app. And we did that using Socket.io. Now, for most of everything else, we're using the Google Cloud Platform instead of AWS. The Google Cloud Platform we're using for our Cloud SQL, for our compute engine, for a bunch of other things. And the reason we went with that was they give you a $300 credit when you first sign up, which we use for most of the initial website development. But then I was able to network with some people and get connected with some employees at Google. We applied to the Google Cloud Platform for Startups program and were accepted. So they gave us $1,000 to continue hosting and continue developing on that. Initially, when we started, we were using the Google Cloud Platform equivalent of an S3 bucket to store our images. But we ran into problems with storing weird file types and with compression. Because our website is all user content, it's kind of hard to control that stuff. And so we found this great product called Cloudinary, where they do a lot of cool image translation, compression stuff that we use now. And then we're also using Mailgun and Twilio for notifications, which I'll get into further. So I'll hand it over to Alex for a demo. Hope nothing goes wrong, because the last time we demoed this, we brought down our production server. But I'm sure that won't happen this time. So Alex, take it away.
Okay. Well, these are our apps. So when you first open the app, you see the feed, which you can sort between housing and textbooks. And you can filter, as you can on the website, between different genres, I guess you could say. And then when you favorite a listing, they appear here, and I'll show you how that looks once you're actually logged in. We have authentication on these buttons so that you can't access them without logging in first. So I'll go ahead and log in.
And one thing to note while he's doing that, when you register, you're required to use either a BYU or a UVU email address, because we're only marketing this towards students. So you want to keep it more secure in the fact that you're dealing with classmates, not necessarily some random guy living in Springville.
What authentication solution are you using?
We're doing it all custom. Because with the first iteration, we were just using like the Google authentication, but we wanted to only allow those specific UVU, BYU, EDU email addresses. So we had to do it custom, but we're hashing and salting the password, so it's all above board.
So you can go into a listing and view easily the different amenities that it might have and when it's available. You can cycle through the images and favorite a listing if you want to have easy access.
Poor Brandon's gonna think someone's interested.
Yeah, that is one thing to note. This is all live production.
Yeah.
So this is what people are trying to sell.
Yeah.
So you see they show there or textbooks for the writing. And then I'm going to show you posting a listing, it has a stepper, what this is called, and it just makes the form more manageable to fill out. And something about this is it has required fields, so you can't mess up our database.
When we first started with the website, the form was just this massive, overwhelming thing because we're asking a lot of information that BYU students are concerned about, like is the private bedroom bathroom or is there parking reserved, that kind of stuff. Because at some point we want to be able to filter on that. So if you're looking for housing and you really want a private bedroom, you can search by that. But so with the website, it was very overwhelming. So we decided to break it up into this stepper situation.
You're a real person.
That's me. And then I'm not gonna post it because it's points protection. So I'll end there. But then we have chats, and this is a big feature from the website that we wanted to include because we don't want people to give away personal information, and that poses security concerns. And there's lots of cases of like stalkers and stuff like that. So
How do you do the WebSocket in Flutter?
what we did with the WebSocket is we had to do it natively for each language, which was a big hassle, but it turned out.
You'd mentioned that Flutter's just designed where you can tap into custom code for each different platform for a specific method or
So you wrote a plugin for doing your chat?
Yes.
Yeah. And I'll talk more about the thinking behind that in a minute.
So Thomas, you wanna send me a message?
I will send you a message, I just have to log in.
Okay,
Sorry.
or I'll show, and you can click on the person's to, and you can come back here and chat with them on the details page.
Part of the start,
Yeah.
I have Alex has multiple ones. Oh, it's this one.
And you see, I just got a notification from Thomas.
And those are push notifications for each platform?
Yeah.
Cool.
And you can see, Flutter actually has a plugin for that, so it's really easy. You can see this one, it's unread. Hey. Nice presentation.
Thanks, you're doing great too.
And so you can see it's working. Did you get a message?
I got a message.
Perfect. And then on account page, you can view your listings that you've posted. And when you go into that, you can mark it as sold when you sell it, so you won't get any more messages about it. And
So that limits the chat feature?
yeah, it'll make the log go away.
Hmm.
And tell them that you can't message them anymore.
It'd be nice maybe to continue the chat with the individual that purchased it or something, potentially.
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
And that's about it.
Okay, so any questions about the actual app before we go into some lessons learned and some more details about?
What's different about the iOS app?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. He's just an Android guy and prefers using Android.
And that's what would offend the iOS people.
Yeah, we've got both.
Yeah.
So
But no.
The
But
material
the
design.
UI
Yeah.
looks like an Android UI over there on the iPhone.
that's one thing when we were first coming with design, so you saw our paper prototype, we were trying to figure out, okay, we don't want to have to create two different designs, so we were trying to come up with good examples, and so the only one we could find was YouTube. You know, you've got the YouTube app on both platforms, but it looks exactly the same on both platforms. So
No,
we
Google does
decided
that a
if
lot.
Google does it, then we're gonna do it. And we both have more experience with Android than
But
iOS,
tabs
so.
at the top, that would be something that iOS users would go, what?
Well, it was that's a lot better than our first iteration, but yeah, there's definitely
Yeah.
iterations to go through.
Yeah, I'm not being critical.
Oh, no,
I'm just telling you what the
Yeah.
fanboys will tell you.
Well,
the
our original
philosophical-
one violated a bunch of the Apple guidelines, so we tried to minimize the violations. So we're
Okay.
getting there.
Good.
Step in the right direction.
I'm very impressed with it.
Thank you.
And you can see that there are some specific iOS.
Yeah. For example, that looks exactly like iOS.
Yep. Okay, we didn't break anything. Fantastic. So, lessons learned. We learned a lot, and I'll just go through a couple of these. So using the existing backend really allowed us to do a lot quickly. If we had been doing the backend the same time we were doing the Flutter app, we would not have gotten nearly as much done. As it stands, the mobile app and the website are pretty similar. I think functionality-wise, they have almost identical functionality. So if it weren't for that existing backend, we wouldn't have been able to do as much. And along with that, the whole plan was to just create companion mobile apps for the website, which allowed us to have very clear defined goals. We weren't, running into scope creep where we were trying to do a bunch of different things. We knew exactly what we needed to do because really we were just copying what the website could do, so that was nice. Using Flutter has been a lot of fun. Alex loved it. I kind of liked it. We were a little worried in the beginning because it's so new. We were worried about lack of documentation and support. But what we found was there was actually more documentation and support than I was expecting. I know that before Google even announced the beta, they had worked with companies around the world to start building stuff with Flutter. And so by the time it went into beta and it's now out of beta, there's actually a good amount of support. But it did come with unique challenges. So the WebSocket was quite the ordeal. Because Flutter is so new, they don't support the WebSocket that we're using on the website, which is Socket.io. And to achieve parity between the two, we needed to use that same WebSocket. And so we looked, and there were some third-party packages that were trying to do what we did, making Flutter and Socket.io work together, but I mean, they were brand new. They were on version 0.0003, something like that. And there was no documentation. There wasn't even an installation guide, so that really wasn't a feasible option. For a while, we were just trying to think of janky ways where we could make it look like it was real time, and just kind of wait it out until Flutter added that support. But then Alex had the brilliant idea of just going into the native Android and iOS code and writing the plugin there. And so that's what we did. Alex figured out the Android side pretty quickly. I'm the one with the Mac, so I was stuck learning Swift and trying to make that work. And it's working, but there's definitely some bugs and stuff that we would need to polish up once we're ready to publish. So you'll see that this one, cross-platform frameworks are great, but that doesn't replace knowing the native stuff, because you never know when you're going to have to dive into that code. I never used Swift before. I still don't know how to use Swift, but somehow I managed to cobble that together. So next steps. Alex really wants to finish this up. We've got some things to polish, but it's pretty close to being able to publish. But for me, I'm a little uncertain, and I want to explain why. Before we even started on the website, a year ago, we built some surveys and we posted them on the BYU housing Facebook groups, and so we got a good number of responses back. And one of the questions was, if we were to build an app that was tailored to this situation, would you rather a website or mobile app? The majority of people said website, which is why we started with the website and why that's live right now. But I mean, it wasn't 90%, 10%. There were a good number of people who wanted a mobile app. But we started with the website, and the biggest problem the website was facing was we built this chat functionality, but with a website, there's no good way for push notifications. It's hard to know when someone sent you a message. And so that's probably the strongest feature of this mobile app, the ability to have it in your pocket, and as soon as someone texts you trying to buy your housing contract, because your phone vibrated. So when we first launched the website, there was nothing like that. If you didn't log into the website every day, you would never know you got a message. Then a couple weeks after we launched, we released a new feature where you could, in your preferences, set up kind of a batch email reminder thing, where every morning or every other day or once a week, you would get an email if you had unread messages that would remind you to go check it. And that's better than nothing, but that's still nowhere near as good as a push notification. But about 2 weeks ago on the website, we launched a feature where we'll text you when you get a new message.
So why hadn't you done that earlier? Because
we just hadn't gotten around to it.
I see. Okay.
Hadn't gotten around to it. So the website now, if you get a message and you don't read it, after about 3 minutes, you'll get a text message saying, hey, you got a message, go check the website. And so it's not as seamless and pretty as a mobile app experience would be. but it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And so being a startup and only having a couple people to work on this, I'm not sure, even with Alex's help, we'd be able to support both a website and a mobile app. The website, it's somewhat solid, but we only have 140 users. I mean, if it starts growing even more, I'm sure there will be countless growing pains. And so I'm just not sure if we'll be able to support both, but we're still going to work. We've got some bugs to clean up, but we're still going to work to get it to a state where we could publish the app. If we do that, that's still up in the air, but we're still going to work towards it. So that is the campus market. Any questions?
Okay, so did you look into push notifications with websites? Because there are push notifications. You can
There
do
are.
with
We
websites.
haven't looked into it too much though.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that feature is available. It can be overused.
It can be in, correct me if I'm wrong, but you got to have that website up in a tab somewhere to receive those push notifications, correct?
I don't know all the details behind it. I haven't done it myself.
I think you do,
That
and
may
just
be true.
because this isn't a website like Facebook. This isn't something people are checking constantly. This isn't something they always have up on their phone or their laptop. And so I just don't think that would be as seamless of an experience just because it's new. I mean, if we get big enough where people are always on this, then that would be a great option. But for now, I just don't think it would work.
Okay.
So tell me about additional features that in the near term you're going to implement on the website. I think your concern is exactly what I would think at your stage. Can I support these things? But there are apps, I'm thinking specifically Instagram, that has options in multiple channels, but there's a disparity between, in this case, the website and its functionality versus that the app is more fully featured.
Yeah.
Are there a lot more features coming on the website? I mean, the core looks like you've got it captured here.
The core is good, and ever since we started working on the app, we kind of slowed down new feature development because we wanted to give time for us to bring the app up to speed.
Mm-hmm.
But also, we just went live, and so we were trying to stabilize stuff
Yeah.
and put out fires.
Yeah.
And so we do have a roadmap of new features. For example, we were talking about, I know with the app, Alex wants to do like an onboarding thing where you open up the app and there's a better onboarding experience where it explains what we do, how you can do it. We're also working on something like that for the website, but on the different platforms, I don't think we should do them the same. I think for mobile, it should be maybe more of like a guided walkthrough, whereas the website might be a video.
Sure.
And so we do want to keep them as close together as possible, and because it's a very small team of people working on this, it's just hard to do.
Should it be easier to create a listing for an apartment on the app because you're going around taking photos right there with the camera, or do your customers typically have their photos already taken and on their computer?
And or are you using your mobile app in a web browser and then just uploading directly from that anyway?
Yeah, what I see people doing these days is even so I process missionary applications for missionaries in my state.
Mm-hmm.
And they will not go take their passport and put it on a scanner and
That's
scan
exactly
the
right.
thing. They'll just pull out their phone, take a picture. And so if that's what people are doing for their pictures anyway, maybe they have AirDrop because they're Mac fanboys and they can just easily send it over to the computer, but maybe it isn't so easy. I don't know.
So I've done a little bit with responsive websites. Really nice integration with just a file button to upload, access your camera, take a live picture, and it's there.
So you're saying
So
just
the responsive website might
plug
already,
into the camera and
yeah.
So you can already do that. I do know people are taking pictures of things. One of the reasons we switched to that Cloudinary image management thing was when we first launched, like day one, the first person who tried to create a listing crashed our website because they tried uploading Apple's new HEIC file format.
Yeah.
And we thought we'd have that handled, but we didn't. So I know that they definitely are taking pictures, but I don't know if they're taking pictures right then and there or if they're uploading. But the website does allow that. So the app, it offers the same.
Yeah, are there any other features that would drive value toward the app over the website?
The biggest I can think of is just those notifications when you get a message. Alex, I can do that.
So and this is broader than the capstone. What's your monetization strategy overall? And when do you hit a critical mass such that, you know, maybe the mobile app is worth it? Or that you can start hiring help?
The business plan, this is kind of our prototype. The business plan is to create a lot of different instances of vertical classified sites for different marketplaces that
Yeah.
are underserved.
Okay,
So
that was
vertical
another question
meaning
I had.
this one's very tailored to BYU.
Yeah.
But we also want to build, you know, a classified instance that's very tailored to restaurant owners so they can sell restaurant equipment. So we want to build out those different vertical marketplaces. And so this was kind of a prototype, so we weren't really thinking much about monetization here because the demographic is so small. I mean, there's only 30-something thousand students at BYU, and we did recently add support for UVU, so that's a bigger market. So we could add, you know, ads on here. We could do sponsored listings where you pay to be at the top of the list. So we could do little things like that, but monetizing this site hasn't really been a focus. This has been more of a proof of concept, getting traction with our bigger business idea.
So a lot of markets use Craigslist for, you know, lack of anything better. I'm thinking, you know, other metro areas. And, you know, I do think there's a market for university-based exchange of a subset of, you know, kind of materials, contracts, or books, what have you. I mean, easier scale and massive, and it's always, you know, being infused with new individuals as to horizontally scale this, if you will, to other campuses around. I think that your market of restaurant, you know, kind of equipment, that's awesome, cool. I don't know if it's as large of a market, but maybe there's better ways to monetize that market.
No,
so
it's definitely a smaller market, but that's why we would be going for, you know, multiple markets at the same time, and there would be different ways to monetize. For example, let's say one of the biggest known vertical classified instances around today are things like Zillow for housing or Auto Trader for vehicles, and so a lot of those in high traffic areas. So like if you're trying to post a car in New York, a lot of times they'll charge you money to do that because there's a lot of scams and fraud in New York. And so you can make money by charging people to post on there. Or you can tailor the instance to, instead of a marketplace, tailor it to, let's say, Google has a humongous presence in Mountain View, California. They've got thousands of workers. If we can offer them an instance of a classified platform for just their employees to use among themselves, you know, then we've got a software as a service model come up. So there's different ideas.
So same single system customized with these vertical variables, or are you talking about cloning instances for each of those?
We've tried to, so with the website, we've tried to build out the back end to be kind of our core functionality, where then if we want to branch out to a different industry, we can kind of fork that and then add customized options on top of it. And so that's how we would be going about it.
So my experience is be careful about the amount of customization you do for each different industry, and at the same time be careful about trying to be a one size fits all. There's some sweet spot in the middle there that avoids the pain of customizing, you know, and maintaining multiple branches of code, but at the same time adding the value that a purely generic solution would provide.
Well, with this instance, with the website, there's a lot of things we could do further to customize it, but we're trying to go slowly and figure out, is it going to bring in new users? Is it going to be effective? Because you know the statistic, like 60% of features aren't used. So we don't want to go overboard. We're trying to find that sweet medium by slowly adding more and more to it.
Well, you've done a great job. It's really clean and polished. You have a diversity of different technologies you've gotten in done. I love that you're building on something that has a user base, albeit maybe not huge at this point, but and love that you built out, you know, both platforms. Really nice.
So user base, and that, how are you attracting freshmen or whatever? Do you have a campaign scenario?
We first started with flyers, and so there's always flyers everywhere around campus, and we tried that, but that wasn't the most effective. So we started doing Facebook ads because we can target people 18 to 25 who live in Provo, who say they go to BYU. And so we're doing that, and we've spent maybe $100 on that, and we've seen some good success, but it's not the the best success. And so I have thought about targeting freshmen directly because they're the ones who are going to be here for the longest. If we can capture them now, they in theory would continue using the site for the next 4 years. So I've thought about going down and having a booth or something like over at the buffet over there. So we have thought about it, we haven't done anything.
They have a newspaper that is printed right before school starts that kind of advertises service and opportunities and services and opportunities you might consider thinking about that.
This is a personal scenario in that I've got a good old friend in that his son just got off a mission, been picked up on the UVU track team, that sort of thing's going to be coming in on scholarship, but they don't know. They're from Virginia, North Carolina, excuse me, and they don't have any idea. So they're, you know, you can come park at our house for a few weeks while they look for the best scenario. They've been asking me, and I said, well, it's a track team. That's one thing he could do, is go talk to the people that were, in the track team. He could get in the same room with a track team buddy or do, those sorts of things. But I'm looking at this, I'm going, I think I want to send him the website because he has his UVU thing, and just say, take a gander and see what you think and where it runs.
We'd like to get, so for BYU, there's that housing guide that they come out with every year, the big pamphlet. So we want to get into that. And then for UVU, they don't do as much because they don't have requirements for housing. But UVU has a page on their website where it talks about housing and gives some options of where you can look. So we want to get on there as well. So we want to get into the official university channels.
So how long before you decide whether this is going to go or not go?
That's a great question. I'll continue. I'm going to California again this summer, so I should have some free time. We'll continue working on it, and I'm hoping we'll continue working on it all through the fall. I think when I graduate, that's kind of the hard decision time when I have to figure out. No, it's going to be December of this year.
And
so
Alex,
December, I got to figure it out.
April of next year?
No,
right now. Okay.
Yeah, so I know Alex wants to keep working on this to a point where we can publish it. I don't know. Maybe I've been thinking about maybe handing it off to someone who's interested. I mean, it's not making any money, and it's not costing any money either, really, because I've got all those Google Cloud credits. If someone wants to take it over, I'd be open to talking about that, but I haven't thought too much about it yet.
So right now, you're not monetizing it in any form or fashion. I think if you could get that down, then I don't know if many would say, hey, let me pay you X amount of dollars to kind of take ownership of it. But I just think, if you get a market of, let's say you get, I don't know, a tenth, 3,000 eyeballs that you can control the advertising for, there's a lot of local businesses that totally would, advertise on that platform. But until you show how you're going to move forward, I think kind of even hey, anyone interested in this? I think you've got the workings of something that could be viable, and especially if you move beyond just the BYU marketplace. So I would say, think hard about that, and what you're doing with the New Venture Challenge really help in this regard as well. But I think you've got something.
Yeah, thank you. We'll continue working on it and trying to figure out what's the best option going forward. Okay.
Any other questions or thoughts? All right, great job.
So, going back to
Thank you.